I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Wednesday, and Wednesday we focus on building wealth, building businesses in our community. And we're pleased to have that be the main topic for today's conversation as well. Before I begin, I want to remind and invite people who might be listening on any of the social media platforms. We stream live to YouTube, Black Press USA channel. We stream live to the YouTube Insight News channel. We stream live to Twitter and LinkedIn, and we stream live to 3 Facebook accounts. So we're reaching out to people in a number of ways on a number of platforms, and we are appreciative of the capacity and the opportunity to connect on these social media platforms. And no matter where you are, which platform you're connecting, we'd love to have you shout out yourself, your town, your location. If you have questions or comments, we want to entertain those. If you want to join the program, we can also make that happen. We want to have your voice go forward as well. Well, today we want to talk about the Minnesota Promise Act, and I'll tell you about that and introduce my first guest, my guest for today, actually. But there's a critically important and central organization for wealth building and small business development in our community based in St. Paul. It's the Neighborhood Development Center. And what has happened there recently is the announcement of opening of grant applications for what's called the Minnesota Promise Act Fund. And the Promise Act provides grant money to eligible disadvantaged small business owners and nonprofit organizations, and can be utilized for things such as working capital, payroll expenses, rent or mortgage payments, utility bills, equipment, and other essential operational costs. And I'm sharing information that I'm taking from the City of St. Paul's website, and it announced that the NDC, that's what we call it, Neighborhood Development Center, has been designated by the state of Minnesota to administer applications and allocate grants under the Minnesota Promise Act legislation. And they announced that the first round of grant applications began on Monday, June 3rd, and closes Sunday, June 30th, meaning there's still time for you to apply for a grant before Sunday at midnight, June 30th. The report says details for qualifications and logistics can be found at www.minpromiseact.org, minpromiseact.org. And so, while we have background, the legislature in June of 23 created the Minnesota Promise Act. Promise stands for providing resources and opportunity, and maximizing investments in striving entrepreneurs. Promise, Promise. And so the act gives the responsibility of dispersing $72.3 million, roughly. I think it's $72,280,000 in Promise Act grants over 2024 and 2025. And NDC, Neighborhood Development Center, builds on its longstanding mission of supporting small business owners and meticulously preparing them and getting a team to support the pivotal program. And as I said earlier, the grant money, according to this law, is available to eligible disadvantaged small business owners and nonprofit organizations, and can be utilized for working capital, payroll expenses, rent, mortgage payments, utility bills, equipment, and other essential operational costs. Well, Renee Dossman is the president of NDC. She's also the CEO, and she's quoted as saying that our team has been diligent in designing this program, and we've done this arm in arm with over 24 community partner organizations who are equally committed to the work. She says we're thrilled to launch the grant round and to focus on supporting as many disadvantaged small business owners as possible. And she said that from day one, the team has been grounded in the guiding principle and committed to being exceptional stewards of these dollars. They built the application portal with transparency, accessibility, and equity in mind while maintaining rigorous safeguards to protect against fraud and abuse. She says, we know the impact that this funding is going to have. It's going to be transformative to those who receive it, and we will continue to advocate for entrepreneurs to help fulfill the true promise of the opportunity. Renee Dossman is here. Renee, so good to see you. Thank you for coming back on the program to give an update. So I read that, I have been excited from the beginning. I know all of the hard work that went on behind the scenes in the legislature. This truly is monumental and transformative, not only in the assembling of the dollars, but the process that moved us here. And let me say that from my point of view, Renee, that the state has a documented history of having lofty goals, but woefully insufficient execution. And we published years ago the chart that showed how little of state spending was going through and to Black and other minority-owned businesses, despite all of the policy intentions that were talked about. The mechanics were not in place. And what you have done with the new legislators and under the leadership of Bobby Joe Champion is organize an ability to deliver on the promise. I think that's exciting. So thank you for being here. Let's have you talk about where we are right now and what you want people to know about the Promise Act, both this round and future rounds.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. McFarlane. I really appreciate that and your comments and assessment. And I was like, oh, do I need to tell them about the website? You did that. Do I need to tell them about what they could use it for? You did that. So I appreciate it. I think.
No, and you can tell them again. I think
I will.
The game is to say it again and again and again.
Yes, that's what we're learning. You got to say it a couple times for people to hear it and really understand it. But it is truly an honor to be here. So I want to thank you for that. It's a historic moment for us as a people and as a community. To receive this amount of funding to go towards entrepreneurs in this state. And I would say to you, you mentioned it, but we are closing. The thing about this, I'm just going to back up. NDC has been around for 30 years. So and these are entrepreneurs that we've been working with for that time. So we understand how hard it is to get sometimes into community, what that needs to look like to build trust, because a lot of this comes down to, do I believe that this is actually going to happen? And I think we're still doing some things to build the trust so that people understand this is like apply, like take a chance on this, right? We specifically set this up in different rounds. So with the legislature, we could use half of the money the first 2 years and half of the money the second 2 years. It's for 4 years. And so this is one round. What we learned during COVID, during PPP, during all of those times is that the money would come and it would go out really quickly. And if you weren't ready, you missed out. And so part of what we're really trying to do with this program is have people get ready for it. And so we held easily over 50, 60 get ready sessions, telling people what they needed. Like, you need to have your taxes done. You need to be registered with the state, specific things that you needed to do. And we told people in different languages, because that's important to make sure that we reach into those communities. So this is the first round of this money. We took about 60% of half of it, or of the half that we had for this allocation. And then the second round will be sometime this fall. We need to assess like the learnings that we're getting from this round of funding to understand, okay, how do we need to approach outreach differently? How do we need to go even deeper? Are there other organizations? And we're already bringing on new organizations to help us with outreach. there are other organizations that we need to bring in to help us get the word out about this money, because we don't want people to be left behind. And I know I'm saying a lot, but the thing that's on my mind right now is that the barrier that we're seeing, one of the barriers is the taxes. So we are specifically working on especially for this next round, ways that we can help entrepreneurs make sure that they get their taxes completed, so that, and get the resources and the help that they need to do that, so that they can apply. I don't want anybody left out of this. If they, I'm definitely not sending any money back to the state. we're going door to door next round. We're not.
Make sure. Well, I think that's a big issue about being ready, and taxes, a big issue. I'm a small business owner myself, and I've struggled over the years and years and years, but it's been help that I got from you all that put me on track to get all of my taxes in order and my systems in order, my systems in place to be effective, both for my own management and my own peace of mind, but also to put my company in position to access resources that are out there. And so talk about what kinds of barriers small businesses come up with. They want to apply, they need the help, they want the help, but they show up and you ask them, let me see your returns from 21 or 22 or 23. What typically happens? What can happen? What kind of problems often emerge?
Well, what we're finding is, I think we have almost 6,000 applications right now in this round, and there's a percentage of those that are out of because this is very specific geography. So all of North Minneapolis, and there's a map on the website, minnesotapromiseact.org. All of North Minneapolis, parts of South Minneapolis, and parts of St. Paul. Those most impacted after the murder of George Floyd and COVID, right? And people, and this was designed, grateful for Senator Champion and Representative Hassan, this was designed to reach those people that did not get prior funding. That was the goal, right? To go into those communities with people that were left behind, to be quite honest with you, which we all know. But what we're finding is that it just stops at so you go into the pre-application and you make it through from a geography perspective, and it stops where you have to upload your taxes. And so we're noticing that's where that's where there's a bottleneck, right? Of people just getting the necessary documents in to do that. And so I think, there's so much. We're still unpacking it. I don't know if I know all the answers. I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability about what you've experienced, but I think there's just there's trauma around money. There's a lot of things that are going on in that and it might be that you don't know how, or you feel so far behind, like, I haven't done my taxes in 5 years. How am I going to get caught up, or how am I going to do that, or why do they want to see that? We actually heard from a person the other day that said, well, I don't want to fill this out because they're going to look up my credit score. Well, it's like, no, this isn't about your credit. This is just about your taxes and are you registered with the state. NEDA, a wonderful organization headed by Dorothy Bridges, is doing the loan portion. So for loans, at 3%. So yes, go for the loan. For loans, you need they're going to look at your credit and they're going to look at other things. But for the grants, it's truly getting those documents in, being within the geography, and being able to say that you're going to use the money for the things that you mentioned. The other biggest thing is that you have to have less than $750,000 in revenue. This is not designed for people above that. So, but the barrier is with the taxes is just, to be honest with you, getting them done and getting the support. And then we find, even at NDC, if we help you, proud of you for taking the help and carrying it forward. If we help you get them ready and you're ready to go and now you're good, you got to keep it up. So you got to have the proper process and procedures and support to keep it going. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know all the answers on how we're going to solve for this. But we're definitely going to look at, because I just don't want there to be any barriers for people to take advantage of this money.
Well, I think that what you all do in advising your clients about business practices in general, but tax and marketing and branding and the like, that's essential and critical work. And I am hopeful that as many businesses and organizations as possible both are aware and then rush to get your support and your involvement, even if they're not quite ready. Taking the step is the first step towards getting ready. And as you have said, Renee, it's not about if I don't get it done by this Sunday for the first round, it's all over, I've missed it. You've described that this is a process that at least goes on for, let me cancel this call coming in.
No, that's fine. It's 4 years total, so at least 2026.
Yeah, and so there's still time, but the key is to get in and get started, and to address this with the idea of creating sustainability in your organization that will carry you towards opportunities in the future and make you more effective as an organization and or as a business. So I think that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And understanding the finance thing, like I said, it's deep, right? Like it goes, how do you learn how to deal with money? Who did you know? And a lot of the entrepreneurs that we support, they're the first. They're the first in their family to explore entrepreneurship, to do this. And you might not have the proper disciplines on how you need to keep track of your expenses or how, track of your revenue. And that's okay. There's no shame. That's another thing. There's no shame in any of this. The key is, how do we give you the resources that you need so that you can get this fixed and so that you can maintain it? And you got to take some ownership for it, because if you don't know how your money's flowing, it's going to be really hard for you to run a successful business.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talk more about the beginnings. We'll come back to the particular Promise Act, but I think it's useful to always tell the NDC story because you've worked with, I think, thousands of businesses over the past 25 years, and that in itself is significant because you've already changed the landscape, but you're expanding that now with these new resources. But tell us the NDC story.
Absolutely.
Mike Tamale, a good friend of mine, one of the originators, is the OG.
He is the OG. Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
But
he had a vision, and
your team has been an excellent team, and you've located and developed, and you've got brick and mortar evidence. You've got receipts, as they call it now, where you are delivering value to individuals, to companies, and therefore to the community and to the marketplace. Tell the NDC story.
Oh, absolutely, Mr. McFarlane. So,
and please call me Al if you don't mind.
Call you Al. Okay. All right. I can call you. Isn't that a song? I can do that.
Call me Al. Yeah.
I can do that.
Okay.
So the story is, it goes back 30 years, and it's with the gentleman that you mentioned, Mike Tamale. Started in DC with a man named Bill Sands, who owned Western Bank. He gave him the money to go, because there was, looking at the community, especially on the east side of St. Paul, they were like, there's probably a lot of businesses here that are underground that could probably use some help to come above ground, right? And to actually contribute to the economy in different ways. But in order to do that, they might need some support. So they started off with just, training and talking to entrepreneurs. And it was like, okay, we'll do some training so you can become an entrepreneur. And it's like, wait, okay, now I got trained, but I still need help with marketing and branding, and I don't know how to do accounting, et cetera. And so then it moved into business development. And it's like, oh, that's great that I'm trained, I got this, but now I need some money. I don't have enough resources. The entrepreneurs we support, the low to lowest income. And so then that's how you rolled into doing lending. And we are a community development financial institution. So we're CDFI, one of 33 in the state. And we loan to entrepreneurs that are low income, that might, we do character-based lending. So it's really about your commitment to community, your character, not so much about your collateral and credit score, because a lot of the entrepreneurs we support, like I said, they're first time. They might not have those things. And then it rolled into, over the years, into real estate and creating affordable commercial real estate for entrepreneurs so that you could have a place for your business now. If you're coming above board and you need brick and mortar, what does that look like? And how do we do that and provide you with wraparound services so that you can be successful? So they had they started off, I think, with Mercado Central and Plaza Verde. And then we had the Midtown Global Market, which we still co-own with the Cultural Wellness Center. We now have several sites, 4 different sites in St. Paul that support entrepreneurs. But it started off in, like, how do we build up this community? And that's why it's the Neighborhood Development Center. Like, how do we build up this neighborhood?
That's right.
And when you build up the neighborhood, when you do that through entrepreneurship, because this corner that I'm on right now,
University and
Yale.
Yale.
It used to be like, strip clubs and all kinds of things going on here. And it's like, how do we build up this neighborhood? How do we create change? How do we create wealth and economic opportunity in this neighborhood? And when you get entrepreneurs in neighborhoods, they become leaders in those neighborhoods. They provide taxes, they pay taxes, they provide jobs to people that look like, a lot of times to people that look like them. So the focus for NDC originally was really going into these key neighborhoods and using entrepreneurship training there, right in community, doing it in community and in partnership, training there to get these entrepreneurs set, right? And then they are leaders in their community, the neighborhood revitalizes, and more importantly, you start to build that generational wealth. And that's what we're about. We already know, and I know you talk a lot on your show about the disparities that we face in this state, but they're real. And so that's kind of how NDC morphed into doing all these different things. The 4 different pillars is what we call it. And then I'd say the story continues as we do this work, but then Mike Tamale, who founded it, is now leading a national effort organization, the Build From Within Alliance. And that organization provides, there's almost like 16 organizations that have come together across the country that have adopted the NDC model. From there's Alaska to Florida. So they've adopted parts of the NDC model. They might not do all 4 things that we do, but we've come together and we have shared values and shared purpose. And so that's happening. And then I'd say the icing is that somewhere along the line, they realized, I think it was several years ago, I've been with the organization now 5 years. But before that, they realized that there was an opportunity with the legislature, right? So that these entrepreneurs need a voice at those tables, and they're not usually sitting at those tables, and no one's thinking about the low to lowest income entrepreneurs when they're making some of these decisions. And so really amping up our policy and advocacy work on behalf of and in support of these entrepreneurs.
Are you working with the African American Chamber of Commerce by any chance?
Yes.
How's that relationship? I ran into a couple of the brothers that are, I think, the CEO or maybe board chair, who used to work over at MEDA. And I think he might have worked with you. I can't remember.
Yeah, he did. Well, no, he didn't work with are you talking about Sam?
Yeah, Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah. Sam actually helped my husband and I when we opened up our restaurant in Brooklyn Park. Sam's been everywhere. And I just talked to him last week. I think, we've definitely have been reaching out to them, and we're just trying to figure out how do we partner and what that could look like so we can be even more intentional. And especially
what he told, when I saw him this weekend, I didn't know this. He told me that they probably is the same general dispensation that the Promise Act comes from. Were awarded about $1 million to support Black businesses.
Yes,
that is mind blowing. I mean, it's way overdue, But
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that he and the team and you and all those involved decided that this is a priority, and that you also found a receptivity again with Senator Bobby Joe Champion and
Yes.
the other members of the Black Caucus and
Mm-hmm.
the People of Color Caucus at the
Yes,
legislature. You know, the game has changed,
it
and
has.
these leaders are making game change possible because
Mm-hmm.
they're ready to put money behind activities that reflect a shift in the policy. And the
Mm-hmm.
shift in the policy is a shift to move the money into our neighborhoods. It's money that we give and we support
Yes.
with our taxes, but we don't get the reciprocity. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I don't want to go into, as you said, we can spend a day and a
We,
night talking about disparities, but that's
yes,
what we'll be doing. We're not doing that today. We're talking
you're
about
right.
solutions. This is about solutions. I want to just big up to or applaud you and Sam and the Black Chamber and Meta and Neon, uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Black Women's Wealth Alliance, all the
Yes.
partners at the table and trying to communicate solutions to present us as solution makers
Yes.
and as problem solvers. That's what we are. That's what we're doing.
Absolutely. And we're closest to we're here, boots on the ground. We're closest to the work,
Mm-hmm.
right? We
Mm-hmm.
trust us. We know, and we see it day in and day out. And it's not like we're surprised by, but if you don't invest in it, if you don't give the resources, it makes it extremely
It makes
difficult. It's like it makes it extremely difficult for you to get that leg up. Right.
right,
And
right.
so I love that all of these or the organizations you're talking about and the Promise Act, the way we structured it is it's it goes through these community tables so that we can and really grateful for Kenya to be leading one of those tables and bringing people together, because it's important that it's not just. It was really important to me that it wasn't just NDC, because it's never about NDC. It's always about the community and it's about these entrepreneurs. And so if we can stay focused on that through shared values, shared purpose, which is about those entrepreneurs, I think we can do anything. And one of the things that when this is right now, I will say what I'm most proud of is that we are coming together in partnership.
Awesome.
And we're
That's
working
awesome.
together on this and coming together to tackle the like what's coming up, like what do we need to do? How do we need to move? Okay, we need more people in North Minneapolis. We need whatever. So yeah.
Let me ask you about your personal story, if you don't mind, Renee. How did you come to this work? You said you've been with NDC about 5 years. What's
Yeah.
your professional trajectory?
Oh,
How do you come to this work?
that's a great question, Al. So it's complicated, right? So like if you think about it, I grew up, just so you know, I grew up in Chicago in Cabrini Green, and lived there with my mom. I had two brothers. They were way older. My mom passed away when I was 13. So I moved from Cabrini to live with my brother in Duluth, Minnesota. So I moved from Cabrini to Duluth, which was culture shock on a whole nother level, right? And but my mom worked. She was like one of the
Only
only.
thing in common would have been the cold winters.
Right, that's about it. And when
And
that
and
Chicago wind is no joke.
that Lakeshore wind in
That is
Duluth
no
is
joke. It
yeah,
was legit.
yeah.
But yeah, there was otherwise. I was like, the only white people I knew were my teachers. That was it. Yeah, so moved, and my mom was the only one that worked. Like she was one of the main people that worked in our building, like one of the only. Took the bus every morning at 4:30. So taught me this work ethic. Taught me she would be the person in the community that would put on a big pot of greens, make a big thing of peas or whatever to feed the building when their checks ran out, towards the middle of the month. So when I moved to live with my brother, that spirit carried. Was first person in my family to go to college. So I went to St. Scholastica in Duluth, then moved down to Minneapolis and worked for Cargill as an accountant and an auditor. So did that for several years, and then went to Target, and that's where I stayed for over 20 years in merchandising. So I worked on Barbie and plush, and moved into TVs and VCRs when we used to have them, and video games. So all the launching of video games. I worked in cameras, and then I moved into grocery which is where I found my love. Like I love eating, I love food. So I moved into grocery and helped to bring Starbucks into Target and Krispy Kreme, and then became a what do you call it? Like a trend. I did trend analysis, so traveled around the world looking for food trends for Target. Loved my experience there. Target's such a great partner to NDC now, and just nice seeing it on this side. So I did that, and then
were you there when Randall? What's Randall's last name? He went to McAllister College. He was doing music at Target. This is back when Target and stores like that had CD sections.
Oh yeah,
that's no longer there. And the brother
That
named Randall, I can't remember his last
Randall.
name.
I remember Daryl Tucker led the music,
Okay.
the whole music division.
Okay.
So yeah, so I was there, and then I had an opportunity to go down to Florida and work with one of my old bosses at Winn-Dixie. And so I led the bakery team down there and built out new store concepts. Fresco Imas was one of them. And we built out an African-American store concept, and then a fresh food. And my husband and I opened a restaurant in Brooklyn Park at that time. And then I decided to move home after the election. I was like, I think I was here. I was down there. My husband was here. I'm like, we got to move back. So then I moved back and was helping out with that.
Back to Minneapolis, right?
Back to Minneapolis. And we have had for now 20, almost 30 years, housing, long-term supportive housing for homeless men. So was helping with that. And then took a brief stint at another nonprofit and was like, it didn't work out. And I was like, I never want to work at a nonprofit again. And, but I said, God, I will be obedient, because clearly there's some lessons you're trying to tell me. And then it was like, check out the Council of Nonprofits. And there was a job from NDC. And I was like, I will do anything but work for a nonprofit.
and here you are.
But I said I'd be obedient. So I'm going to go check it out. But I know I'm not going to like it. And here I am.
And here you are. And I think you're loving it.
I do. I feel really blessed to do this work.
That's wonderful. What's your family story besides your mom? You mentioned your mom growing up in Chicago. Do you spend a lot of time reflecting on your ancestry? And when I hear people from Chicago, I say by way of. So where did y'all live before you got to Chicago?
I love that. We lived in Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge.
That's where the family was, down in Louisiana. My grandma, etc. And my dad's family is from, I think, Mississippi area. So yeah, it's definitely from the South. And worked up. My mom's sister moved to Chicago. She lived on the west side. We obviously lived on the north side. So my mom's sister moved up, and then my mom followed with my brothers. And I wasn't around yet, because they're like 18 years older than me, 11 years older than me. And then,
Well, so what kind of family stories, family legends do you have that you grew up with that some way or another help set you on your pathway to both entrepreneurship and to service to community? I mean, what you just described in terms of your career is both exciting and phenomenal. So here's a person who says she was raised with mom in Chicago, but she's traveled the world, setting up businesses, setting up systems, doing auditing. I think that's phenomenal. That's just amazing. And you must feel the same way when you look back at your career. That's a lot.
I feel like, it's you. So you're like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Yeah. And I just recently got my master's. I forgot to add that to the story, in organizational leadership from St. Mary's. So I feel really proud of that. But I think, you know what it is really, in all honesty, it's this, it's the same, like, to whom much is given, much is required. Like that has been we just can't get for ourselves. We just can't take for ourselves. We must give to others. We have to. And so my mom, my mom was worked every day. Like, she worked making boxes, and she would, she had a closet for schools, because I loved school. Like, I loved reading. Even as a kid, I read oh my God, comic book after comic book. And she would keep school supplies in a closet for the kids in the neighborhood. So, I didn't really get to know my grandparents. They passed when I was young, but I'd say, and my mom passed when I was young, when I was 13. But this instilled in me that if you have it, you have to give to others and share. And I just feel like for our community, like I said, I was reluctant. I say every day, Lord, what am I doing here? What do I know about lending?
Sure.
I don't know anything about CDFI. We had the wonderful privilege and opportunity yesterday at NDC to have Secretary of Treasurer Janet Yellen and Senator Amy Klobuchar in our offices. And I'm literally sitting there going, who, what? Like, it's just beyond, God does more than you can ever imagine, right? And so I think it's just this, but I have this desire to give back to our to our people. Like we have to. And if we can come together in partnership and collaboration and do that, that's what this Promise Act is about. It's about giving people an opportunity, like they said, striving entrepreneurs an opportunity to prevail. They made it through some really hard stuff, and they're scrappy. Entrepreneurs are so gritty, like they're so resilient.
That's right.
So just this little bit of money, can help them think differently, do differently, move differently. So.
Your meeting yesterday with Secretary Yellen and Amy Klobuchar, did you guys record that by any chance, or take pictures or take notes?
No, we do have some pictures. We got some pictures coming, but we didn't record it. It was,
Okay, it was kind of an off the record meeting, but I'd love to get pictures to use in the newspaper. Because I did get the press release about it in advance, and glad that meeting took place. And so, continuing on your personal story, Renee, let me ask you how it felt to travel abroad. What places have you been to? And when you first started going out of the country, what were your hopes, expectations? What were your doubts and fears? And what were your discoveries about who you are and about the world and people in the world?
Oh, my goodness. I remember.
How old were you when you first went abroad?
I was in my 20s because I didn't travel. I traveled abroad for Target. And then now my husband and I go, like, we've been to South Africa and Panama. We're going back to Panama. But my first trip was to London. It was to Europe, and we went to a show because I was leading the trend team. So there's a major food show in Paris. So then, we trend shop in London, and then we go to Paris and go to the food show. And sometimes we'll go to Germany or like Italy and all the then we did
what a job. Boy, what a job.
It was such a blessing. I tell you, it was like, what? Like I just every day I pinch myself. We went to Australia, we spent time there, we went to Japan. But I remember that first plane ride. I remember looking out the window going, I can't believe that this girl from Cabrini is on this plane going to some, and you get there and you're just like, well, you're just out of your element, right? And so many people, where I grew up, so many people didn't even leave our neighborhood.
Right.
Like they didn't even and go to the south side when you're on the north side. I never go to the west side, right? Like we just stayed in that little area that was created,
or get on a plane. Get on a plane.
Never got. But my mom actually, even though she was scared of flying, we used to fly to visit the family in Louisiana.
Okay.
So my mom took me. I remember being that young, being on a plane and going to visit family. So that was my first plane ride, in the States. But then when I went out, it was through work, and it was you just you just realize it's bigger than you, and there's so much more out there. And I just felt so humbled, and like I'm just in shock and awe all the time about all the different things that are happening, because I didn't dream any of this. Wasn't like, I'm gonna do, like, I didn't think like that. And so it's just, I feel truly honored and privileged and blessed, to be
Did you
honest.
connect with other Black people in other countries, or was it simply on the corporate mission that you're on? Was your
It was on the corporate mission, but when Ben and I, my husband, Ben, when we go, we go in deep into the community. And so we connect. We connected with the lady Joyce in South Africa, went to her township, spent the day and hung out with her and her family. And so, yeah, we definitely, we connected with the gentleman in Panama, and got to see, like, when you connect with people that are from there, you get to see just something way bigger than just like, go to this tourist spot. We went deep into the community.
And so what discoveries would you say you have made or are making? And the reason I raise the question is that I tell people that my father is Cuban born, Cuban.
Okay.
His family Jamaican. We've got property in Jamaica, farming community. And he came here during the war to work during World War II. And and then my wife's family, my mother's family and my wife's family are both from Mississippi, right? And when I go to Crystal Springs, Mississippi, which is a small town outside of Jackson, I sit there on the porch and wave at people when they drive by. Everybody speak to everybody, and so I noticed that in Crystal Springs, for example, it's just like the neighborhood I grew up in, Kansas City, where there's smart people and there are people who are challenged. There are devout people, but there are people who are also slicksters. There are people that are meticulous and there are people that are sloppy, but all of it makes up the whole. And every community has people occupying different roles and different responsibilities, but we're all connected. When I grew up, the teachers and the preachers and the doctors and the dentists lived in that house or around the corner. So the people that I went to school and studied under when I was in grade school, for example, and my doctor lived 2 doors down the street, Dr. Chapman, and the postman lived about a block and a half up, and the people that were in the National Guard lived around the corner. All of us made community. Well, when I went to Crystal Springs, I had the same feeling of a bunch of ordinary people doing ordinary things. And then when I took my wife to Jamaica the first time, pointed out to her that being in the country in Jamaica, in this small mountain village we lived in, a place called Dressicky and St. Mary, just like being in Crystal Springs. And I discovered that being in Crystal Springs and being in Jamaica was just like being in Ghana.
Oh, wow.
And being in Ghana was just like being in Uganda when I spent time with village people there. So I discovered how we are all connected. We're all playing the same roles in our own individual ways. But what we do has a universal, global, aspect to it. And that all of us want to be decent human beings. We want our parents to be proud of us. We want our children to look up to us and say, I'm proud, that's my mom, that's my dad, that's my uncle. We want our brothers and sisters to speak highly of us. We want to do right and feel that we've done right. And so the question then becomes, how do we figure out, how do we work with each other? How do we be with each other in ways that also reflect profitability, wealth creation, and business? What are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, you just said.
And the reason it's important right now is because St. Paul and Minneapolis are in the middle of transformations in populations, and more people of African descent are here and are potentially, some of the things you're doing might be directed to ADOS, the descendants of American slavery, but some things are broader than that.
They are.
And so how does it play into where we're going in the future? The fact that we can now have knowledge of each other in ways that we didn't have before.
Well, my hope and desire is that we use that knowledge to further each other, further the cause. I feel like sometimes we all, like, it's even like rural thinks they're different than city, right? Like, oh, when you're in greater Minnesota, oh, that's so different than what we're going through. You don't understand in the metro or whatever. Like, everybody always thinks somebody else is so different. But in actuality, what you said is true. When we, if when you understand that the person, and you get to know the person, you understand that we're all so much more alike. And so I am excited for, like, the diversity that's happening in this state. It only makes us better, just these different thoughts, these different viewpoints, different people coming together. So I hope that we can use it to make this a better place, better state, better country, better world.
Well, one of the people that's working with you is another business leader, and I think
Yes.
a luminary and a force of nature, and that's my friend Kenya McKnight. I think she's
Yes.
in the back room. Kenya, welcome to the conversation. Good to see you again.
You as
Always good,
well.
always good to be in contact with you. And you heard
Yes.
me and Renee talking about this whole thing of connecting internationally and nationally in building community. You've taken on a special mission of working to build wealth with Black women, knowing that that affects the entire Black community by enabling and supporting and lifting up that capacity. What are you doing to work on the Promise Act in particular, in conjunction with leaders like Renee Dossman and others at Neon and META and beyond?
Yeah. Hello. Hey, Renee. Great to see you.
Good to see you, beautiful.
I only have a few minutes. I'm really sorry. I was in a meeting, but I wanted to at least come on and say hello. And
Appreciate it.
well, we're really excited about the Promise Act. Great ups to Renee, her organization leading this effort. It's really important for our community. And I like to say, leave no money on the table. No matter how small or big it is, it all matters. And I think this is one of the biggest opportunities we've seen for entrepreneurs and all types of entrepreneurs, meaning that you don't have to have a storefront for this one, right? And so you can have, mobile barbershop that it has a stationary place in one of the zones. You can have rental property, because there's a lot of commercial and rental property owners. That's a business, right? That also, has an active way that you're showing up as an entrepreneur. So I really am really proud of this Promise Act. And I'm hopeful that over these next 3 cycles, as we're wrapping up the first cycle, that we'll get even more entrepreneurs on board with applying for this, the awareness that's happening. So what we do with the Black Women's Wealth Alliance is just really support the overall program success through promotions, putting it out there. We have a street team that's doing outreach, connecting with local business owners throughout North Minneapolis, more so. That we've done some South, but it's mostly North. And we've gotten some signage up. Thanks, Renee, for all the marketing materials. That's really helpful. The visuals are really helpful for the community. And then we're doing a help center here. Promise Act Center is what I call it, where folks are stopping in. So we started it Friday. We've had 13 people visit to date, which is great. It's just, we're just getting it up and going. We'll have it throughout the entire campaign. So that's great. So folks can come in and get some direct assistance with applications. We're taking phone calls. We've been a lot of calls. And then we also have accountants here who are assisting people with direct preparation of their taxes to make sure they have the documentation to apply. So that's the work that we're doing here at the Black Women's Wealth Alliance. And we also provide support to the Grant Review Committee for the Promise Act, which our team has been diligently focused on over the last week and a half that we've been doing apps. So we're excited.
Well, this first round closes out in a few days, but there still is time.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted to give people who are listening or who will be able to communicate to through our website or through our daily newsletter how they can connect with you, Kenya, or with you, Renee, and other partners, so that if this is the opportunity right now, that they don't miss it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for all your work with that, Al, as well. And I just left the interview, Renee, with Kara Levin, talking to folks about. So, yeah, we got more stuff coming up. So we'll keep pushing it all the way to the deadline. and then we'll be ready for round 2. So it's just the beginning.
Take a minute and give people BWWA 101. What's the philosophy, the background, and the source of the vision, your elevator speech?
Yeah, well, we're about building generational wealth with Black women, the economic influencer in the Black community. We provide education, career development services, and a grant program. And we now own a building where we provide incubator support space to Black women entrepreneurs. And so overall, it's about making sure that we understand what wealth is, how to use it, how to invest and build it for generations to come. And we utilize the power of Black women who are financial influencers of the Black community to do it.
Okay, great. I know you got to get back to your next meeting. Kenya, thanks for dropping in, and we'll keep you connected to this process and keep lifting you up and your work up.
Yes.
It's important. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We got to make sure, Renee gets to this finish line successfully with the Promise Act. And, that's our job too. And that we thank Senator Champion for all of his leadership and work in making this Promise Act happen.
It's an incredibly exciting time, and the takeaway for everybody is we got this.
We got it.
We can do this. Kenya, thank you.
Yes, thanks, Kenya.
Yeah.
Bye.
And so Renee, I'm glad we were able to get her in for a second.
Me too.
This. Yeah,
she's amazing.
She's absolutely amazing, and continues to do phenomenal work. Just a great vision, a great energy. But I see her walking down your path as well as another phenomenal woman. You're a phenomenal human being. I'll put it that way.
Thank you.
And so, what do you hope for our community? This is something else that I ask a lot of my guests, Renee, is to put the crystal ball on and look into the future. And what, in your own internal visioning, do you see us becoming, our communities becoming, particularly African Americans or African Black people? I happen to be, even though I understand the ADOS strategy, I think there's no single answer.
No.
I think we need to do all the things in all the places that can be done. That's like the example of different people in my neighborhood growing up, finding the same in Kansas City, same in Crystal Springs, same in Dreseke. So we need to have all of the levers being operated. So what do you see as our movement forward, particularly with the ability for us to connect with our people from around the world, both here and around the world?
Yeah, I hope that we know our worth, and that we I think we just forget how truly powerful we are and how truly powerful we can be together. Like when we put all the resiliency, I just think about how resilient we've all had to be, where no matter where, if you're African, coming from Cabrini Green, all the resiliency that it takes. And if we could just own that and keep that and nurture that and develop that in our youth, and just, we need to know how truly powerful we are when we work together and we come together, and that we're more than enough. We don't, I do coaching, and there's this tenet of the coaching model that I use, and it's people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And if we hold that, the sky's the limit. When we come together, there's nothing Kenya has been such a supporter of me and me of her. And it's about, hey, we need to work together to further things for our community.
That's right.
And so how do we do that and stand in our own power and understand that and advocate for ourselves? That's important. You have to be able to say, we need X, and we're not going away until we get it. And so, yeah.
And so what do you see 10, 20, 30 years out, next generation? What will you hope the legacy of this work will be a generation from now?
This generation, they're so fierce, and they have so many tools at their disposal, so much technology. I hope we're light years away. I hope we're not even having this conversation about generational wealth. I hope these these disparities are debunked and dismantled and done, that the systems change, because that's what it is, right?
Mhm.
That we are doing the work to break down the systems that prevent us from moving forward in the way that we know that we should and
Mhm.
should be allowed to move forward, that we dismantle those systems and that we are not having the same conversation. I don't want to have the same conversation 30 years from now. I
Mhm.
want us to be beyond that, moving in a different trajectory.
Let me wind up here by reminding where we started from.
Yes.
And we started talking about this awesome project called the Minnesota Promise Act funds, and
Yes.
that Renee and her team at Neighborhood Development Center are taking applications now, actually through Sunday, June 30th, a couple more days at
Yes.
midnight, for grants allocated under the Minnesota Promise Act legislation. And PROMISE stands for providing resources and opportunity and maximizing investments in striving entrepreneurs. That's exactly what they're doing. It's money created, an initiative created by the Minnesota legislature. Kudos to Senator Bobby Champion and all of his colleagues in the House and the Senate. Uh, Initiated in June of 2023. And the mission is to disperse some $72.3 million in grants over 2024 and 2025. And Renee's organization, NDC, which has a long-standing mission of supporting small business owners and preparing them for success, is one of the organizations that is handling the grant money. And this grant money, according to the law, is available to eligible disadvantaged small business owners and nonprofit organizations and can be used for working capital, for payroll expenses, for rent, mortgage payments, utility bills, equipment, and other essential operational costs. This is a game changer. So no matter where you are, if you are potentially eligible, find out and access the resources and the funds that are available for you. And Renee, how do they reach you to make the? I'll let you make the final invitation.
Yes, I encourage them to go on minnesotapromiseact.org, minnesotapromiseact.org, to learn more, to sign up, to apply for the grants. You can reach out to me you can go on our website, ndc-mn.org, and you can find links to be able to reach out to me. But I just encourage everyone to apply. The grants are up to $50,000. That's huge. So thank you for providing that link there. Yes. So I would encourage you. And if you missed this round, if you're not ready, please stay on the alert for Natalie Johnson Lee has been exceptional with getting out into community, doing these get ready info sessions. So there's going to continue to be outreach sessions for you to be able to get ready for this. And we will be, to Kenya's point, we're going to be providing the support that people need to get their taxes done.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Lynn, for your comment, Lynn Fair.
Yes.
And thanks to Michelle, who watches from out the East Coast, her comments and her applause on this conversation. Renee, thank you so very much for your leadership and for the resource. Please be here as often as necessary to both encourage and support people stepping forward to build their business, build their organization, build an economy, to build wealth in our community.
Yes.
Renee, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your commitment to community. You are truly an amazing, inspirational. We are so grateful to have your voice for all these years. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.